participants, and no, it's. I would like to share a few points before the session starts. This session is not about training or a teaching session. It is more like a discussion where I will share some inputs and some knowledge which I have gained over the years, and I will also be interacting with all the participants. I look forward to your uh, responses in the chat box, or you can, if you are allowed, you can unmute and speak, and we will collectively use your knowledge and my knowledge to create some new knowledge. This session, before I start, I would like to share one interesting point is in a training or in a learning session, when we are talking about teaching pedagogy, we are trying to understand the best way to transfer knowledge from the trainer or the teacher to the learner. So what kind of method we will follow is called WIN. WIN. WIN like actually translates into what. You start with what is the session all about, interest, give a story or some anecdote here, to bring the interest of the student into the class. You have to bring them in such a way that the students or the learners are actually eagerly waiting to listen to you. And need has to be conveyed in such a way that it is both personal as well as a professional need. So if we succeed, then the outcome of knowledge transfer will be happening. Along with that, we have a lot of technologies and other facilities and infrastructure which is there to support us. So I will be just taking you through a brief of teaching pedagogy. What is the overview? What is the significance? And what are the strategies that we can use to make our sessions more meaningful and achieve the knowledge transfer that we are looking for? So, as I said, what is this session all about? So you can see on the screen, on completing this session, I am sure all of you are already using many of these concepts, but you will be able to describe various terms and concepts of teaching, pedagogy and its significance. You will be able to discuss on different learning styles and teaching strategies. You will be able to practice some of the approaches of teaching pedagogy, or pedagogy as you may call it. And you will be able to elaborate on different teaching learning methodologies. So if these objectives, this is the what, and we move on to the next slide, ma'am. Yeah. So now, as I said, I am going to talk about interest. I have a question here for all. What is pedagogy? There is a picture on the screen. There is a picture. There are in fact three pictures. There is a child. There is a sort of image, and there is some experimental image there. So I am giving you a minute to think on it, and you can put out your response on what do you understand by this? What do you mean by pedagogy? You can put it down on the chat box, please. Participants, please note the question and what is pedagogy? What do you understand by the pictures on the screen? You can put your answers in the chat box. I'll wait for at least the first 4 or 5 responses before I continue. Anyone? Way of sharing information in an understandable way. Excellent. Giri Prakash. Thank you. Anybody else? I can see that there are about 31 participants. So I expect at least 4 or 5 responses. Anyone else? Since the time is very limited, I can't hang about on this one question for a long time. So quickly, please share some responses. Okay, I don't think I am getting any more, so I'll proceed. If you can see, there's a picture of a child. This is a picture of an art, and this is, as it mentions, science. So pedagogy actually translates literally into the art and science of teaching a child. The art and science of teaching a child. However, we are not going to focus on the child part. The teaching learning pedagogy that we are concerned in today's world is more about adult learning or andragogy, but the basic concepts remain the same. It's an art as well as a science. And if you can note, there is an interesting definition for pedagogy, which clearly states that a tutor must elicit response from the learner that demonstrates understanding or comprehension of the subject that is being taught. Until and unless the response is there, we can, without hesitation, say that knowledge transfer has not happened. Which is the reason why, I ask you all to share some response wherein I can understand that there is understanding which is happening. Anyway, can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So art, correctly putting theories into practice and building up the teaching experience. Ideally, you don't teach from the textbook or from content which is already there. You make the class lively by sharing your own experiences and building up on those so that the sessions are more attractive to the students. The knowledge of the theories of learning and the different strategies that you use, we will be discussing a few of these. So that is the science part, and the art part is the ability to build theories and put them in practice. What is a pedagogy for teaching? It refers to how educators teach in practice and theory. This is obviously shaped by the beliefs of a teacher and relates the interplay between culture and a variety of methods. Why I say culture is because if we are the Asians, we have this concept of a lot of respect for the teacher. We stand when a teacher comes in, we bow to a teacher. We generally don't argue with a teacher. However, if you look at Europe and Western standards, this may differ. They may not, give way to a teacher in the line or in a queue, which is unthinkable in Indian or Asian standards. So there is a lot of cultural beliefs which will, have an impact on the belief or on the style of teaching that a teacher may have. Next. Again, I have a question for all of you. You can read the question. Do you remember any teacher from your past, whether it is in school or college, who has inspired you? I am not saying that who has taught you well, but who has inspired you. Inspired means at some time you thought, one day I want to be like this person. So if you have somebody like that, please put the name in the chat box and also mention why or what was it that was inspirational about this person. Yes, Dr. Selvarani, I have got an answer from you, your maths teacher Arun sir. But what was it that impressed you or inspired you about him? I would like a few more responses also. In the meantime, you can
Yes,
also look at the.
sir.
Yes,
Excuse me. Sir, I am Dr. Selvarani, sir.
yes, yes, please tell me.
Sir, actually, in the subject, he made more interest to teaching styles, sir.
How was
And
that?
and he wrote the question and wait for few minutes and train ourselves to tell the answer like that. So we have to
Okay.
correlate the question with the answer like
So
that.
he
He
allowed the students to, come up with the answers and he gave you all the opportunity to solve the questions, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is a very interesting way of teaching. You have to learn to extract the answer from the learners,
Students. Yes,
appreciate
yes,
them
sir.
and extract the answer from the learners. That way they will never forget. Excellent. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Guna Sundari, you are mentioned your Tamil teacher. Can you also unmute and say what was special about your Tamil teacher? Yes, please. In the meantime, I
Okay,
can
sir.
look
Good
forward
evening,
for you
sir.
others to also share. Yes,
Good evening, sir.
yes, ma'am. Good evening.
So it's also our my mother tongue means the
Okay.
Tamil teacher first inspires me very much
Mm-hmm.
because we somewhat more about our mother tongue through
Uh-huh.
our Tamil teacher.
Okay.
So it was my first inspiring, I think.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Even I am also a Tamilian, so this Thai Mori that you say, mother tongue, it's
Yes,
always inspirational. And
yes, sir.
yes, if there is anybody else who wants to share, otherwise we shall move on. But in this slide, I want you all to look at one thing. If you see the word teach, it actually reflects as learn. So let us try and understand this, that teaching is, actually more successful when learning happens. Can we move on? Yeah. Please look at this. There is how I would categorize different standards of teaching. So an average teacher tells, they take a lot of lectures. They talk about the subject. A good one relates it with an example and explains. So you remember the example and you understand the content. A superior teacher would demonstrate. They would actually show. They would display some products and show, so that there is a visual impact as well as an audio impact, and you are very clear with the concept. But the best teachers may not follow any of the traditional practices. They may not, use any of the tools, but just because they have their passion, they have their, interest in their subject, and they come with so much energy that the entire learners will be inspired and they would feel that one day I want to be like him. So that is the kind of teacher that I would want all of you to become someday. Also, you must note very clearly that a teacher is never the person who gives you knowledge or truth. He is not the person, he or she is not the person who delivers knowledge. The role of the teacher is only to point in the direction of the truth. The truth will be different for each student, and the student will find it out for himself or herself. Your entire effort should only be to point the students in the right direction. Can we move to the next one, ma'am? Now let us look at what is the need for teaching pedagogy. You can get, as you see in the slide, improved quality of learning. Students will be more receptive, they will interact more, they will be better engaged, and they will, have participation better. They will be more keen to attend classes, they'll be more punctual. There will be knowledge imparted effectively across a different spectrum of learners, even fast, slow, or so on. And there is also possibility of development of higher level cognitive skills in students. Next. See, I'm continuing with the earlier one. What happens when you use the right kind of pedagogy? The classrooms are participative, the learning outcomes are improved, you are able to achieve more knowledge transfer, the learners are more engaged, they are more focused, and they are more interested in the subject. There is possibility of creation of new knowledge. And of course, at the end of it, the satisfaction that you have done a good job, which is what every teacher craves for. When your students perform well and they come up with good achievements, more than them, the teachers are proud. So that is what is the thing that you are looking for in your life. Teaching, I am sure all of you understand, is not financially very rewarding for many of you. The amount of time, effort that you spend, so you may feel that you are not compensated enough in terms of money, but when it comes to satisfaction and when it comes to the level of respect and love that you get from students, we teachers, all feel, let money be aside, we are more happy for what we are doing. It's a service. Can we move on? So please read this. A thoughtfully developed pedagogy improves the quality of teaching, makes the student more receptive during learning sessions. As a result, this improves the student's level of participation in the teaching learning process. And the right pedagogy or the appropriate one will help impart education to students with different learning styles and abilities. Now, I have come here with a concept called learning styles. So, are you aware of what are the different learning styles of students? If you are aware, you can put one or two styles of learning in the chat box. Is anyone here aware of different learning styles? Anyone? What do you understand by learning styles? Visual learning, yes. Banhi Das. Excellent. Anything else? Yes, can we move on? Next slide. A correct pedagogical blended learning, okay, is required for students with special needs. Maybe someone who is physically handicapped, who is not so fluent in the language. There are students who come from minorities, background, different cultural beliefs. So it encourages them to be part of the mainstream learning community. A thoughtfully developed pedagogy makes students develop higher level cognitive skills. That means they'll be able to analyze and synthesize and evaluate. On the other hand, knowledge, comprehension, and application are the lower order cognitive skills as per Bloom's taxonomy. You all also, I would suggest you to have a look at Bloom's taxonomy. Ideally, there are three categories. The lower order cognitive skills are knowledge and memorize or recall and understanding. The middle order is application and analysis, whereas our focus should be to reach the higher order skills, which is evaluation and synthesis or creation of knowledge. So, this is what we should be aiming to do. Take the student from the lower order skills to the middle order and finally to the higher order, where they are able to evaluate, where they are able to synthesize and create new knowledge. Assessing a student's performance is also very important. And if you are fair in your grading process, you will find a lot of respect from the students. You should be very transparent and fair in your evaluation process. This is very critical. Next one. Yeah. So this is what is Bloom's taxonomy. So as you see, the lower order skills, that is to remember and understand, this is what we should try to, avoid focusing on in higher educational institutions, because this is what students would be learning throughout their school. They study something, they memorize, they understand some concepts, some theories and some formulas, and they learn a little bit of application of these formulas in real life situations. But in higher education, we should focus on the application and analysis of this, and which should eventually lead to help them to evaluate three or four different processes. They should be able to evaluate and identify which is the right process, which is the more effective one, which is the more faster one. They should also be able to come out with a combination or with the creation of a new process or a new formula or a new product, which is what will make the education better, the knowledge transfer more effective and interesting. Next. Now let us look at what are the factors that affect the pedagogy or the teaching pattern or the strategies. Firstly, the learning styles of the students. Now, there are different types of learners. There may be an audio learner, there may be a visual learner, there may be a kinesthetic learner, there might be a learner who is a solitary learner, who learns by himself, by reading and writing. So, there are different types of learners. Secondly, the competence of the instructor. How confident or how competent you are in your subject, how much passion you have, and how focused you are in transferring knowledge. Obviously, the availability of resources also makes a difference. Whether you are teaching on a blackboard, you have a whiteboard, whether you have markers, whether you can use a PowerPoint presentation, whether you have a overhead projector, whether you have a Wi-Fi connectivity, whether you can connect with videos, uh, whether it is the shape of the classroom, whether it is facing the students or whether you stand in between. A lot of things make a difference. The educational system or the style of work that is expected from you also, whether you are given the freedom to teach and outcome based education or whether you are curriculum based education. You have a syllabus and you teach as per the syllabus, or I want to achieve this, so these are the outcomes and this is how I will teach. Syllabus, I'm not worried whether you cover the same syllabus or not, as long as the outcomes are achieved. So what your educational system or your university or your college demands, that also makes a difference. And also finally, the field of study, whether you are studying some skill dependent curriculum or whether it is theoretical concept which you are going to present. Whether it's an engineering, where based on theory you have a lot of practical inputs, whether it is a commerce or accounts where everything is done on paper concepts which you practice. Yes, Champa, did you say something? Pardon? I am not able to hear you clearly. Okay, anyway, let us. Champa, you want to say something? Can you please put it down in the chat box? I am not able to hear you. Madam, I think you should mute this person. I am not. I'm getting a lot of disturbance.
The number, sir. 8788 8788 2141 2141 37 37. 8788 Sagar.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. Can we continue, ma'am? Yeah. Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So here you find what are the different learning styles. There's a visual learner, there's a musical or auditory learner, there's verbal learner, there's a physical learner or a kinesthetic learner, there is a logical or a mathematical learner, a social learner, or a solitary learner. I had just mentioned few of these. So how many of you actually know your learning style? We are all teachers here, but how many of you are aware of what is your learning style? Matt, can we move on to the next slide? Always mathematical style, okay? Ma'am, can we go back to the earlier style, earlier one slide before? Yeah. So over here, you see, I have given you a link. You can take a picture of this slide, or you can note down this link. This has 20 short questions. It's multiple choice questions, and it will give you information about your learning style. Okay, so you all can try this out. I am giving you a couple of seconds to, if you want, you can take a picture of this slide, or you can note down this link. You can also use this to ask your students to find out their learning styles. Are we good? Okay, ma'am, move on. Yeah, next. Yeah. Now I will touch a little bit on different learning theories. There are four broad theories related to behaviorism, cognitivism, humanism, and constructivism. What is it? Behaviorism relates to direct instructions or programmed or social learning theory. Cognitivism relates to attribution or elaboration, cognitive development, and conditions of learning. Humanism is experiential learning, what happens in the real practical world, it's learning by experience. And constructivism theory talks about social development, case study based learning, cognitive apprenticeship, to pick up new skills, discovery learning, problem based learning, situation based or situated learning, activity theory, and actor network or role play theories. Okay. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. Please go through this slide. I am not going to talk much about this. This actually tells you who are the main authors who are, who have propagated each of these theory. Like for behavioral theory, it is Ivan Pavlov, John Watson. For the constructivism theory, it's Lev Vygotsky, John Piaget, Jerome Bruner, and so on. So, what is the key concept that is also mentioned here? The behaviorism is response to stimuli or observational behavior. Constructivism, where learning is an active process. Cognitivism, where focus is on how learning is working in the mind. Okay. Connectivism is focus on social technological sharing. So, what is the key theory all about? Behaviorism is all about conditioning. Constructivism is zone of proximal development or scaffolding. Cognitivism is working and long-term memory. Connectivism is get online, get learners involved, engaged. So this is what is the role of a teacher in each of this? In initial one, he creates the stimulus. Here he creates dynamic learning environments. He creates optimized learning environments and minimizes cognitive loads, enables and designs connections. So whichever theory or concept that you are going to apply, that is what you have to do to adapt or change the role as a teacher. Yes, next. This is again just giving you an input. Pedagogy has got broadly five approaches. Constructivist, where you build on experiences. Collaborative, where you tend to collaborate. Inquiry based, or it is a question answer where you put questions and extract responses. Reflective, where you think. And integrative means where you relate some concepts and integrate these concepts to build more knowledge or information. Next. So I have given a little bit details about each of these approaches. For example, the constructive approach is student centered. It builds on past knowledge. The reflective approach is continuous assessment. It is a model approach for trainees. It's outcome based. Collaborative involves teamwork. It pulls in the abilities of learners. Each learner can contribute. It's a group work. Somebody is good at marketing. Somebody is good at presentation. Somebody is good at product development. Somebody is good at accounts. So this collectively they work to achieve a common goal or a target. An integrative approach which integrates the classroom with the outside world makes the curriculum more realistic. An inquiry based is student centered, excites the curiosity because it generates a lot of interest in the learner. So there are again four types of inquiry based approach. One is there is some solution, so students are making an inquiry to confirm it. Another is a structure line, or they form a structure to achieve the inquiry. A third one is guided, where the teacher or the facilitator guides the students in the direction. And another is an open inquiry, where the outcome is not known. So uh, the students work to freely in an open mind to get the outcomes. Next slide. Okay. So this slide again, I'm giving you a couple of minutes. You can note down these. These are different concepts of teaching pedagogy. If you want, you can go through these. These are very good articles. Please, you can use this for reference and improvement of your own knowledge. Please make a note of this. If you are done with this, can we move ahead? Okay. Now I'll touch a little bit about the strategies of collaborative learning. What is that? Team-based learning, form teams and let them work together, catch up, give them things to discuss, and then they can catch up. You can have a fishbowl debate where each member can put his views or her views, and then the outcome can be taken up. Think, pair, share, make the participants to think and put them in pairs and let them share their thoughts. Or it could be a case study which could be individually done or worked in groups. Next. Yeah, I want all of you to look at this slide very carefully. Please look at the slide very carefully. If you see on the right hand side, there is something called passive learning process and there is something called active learning process. So I would suggest all the teachers to move out from the passive learning process into the active learning process as fast and as soon as possible. Very simply, if you see, the passive learning process is more suitable to the auditory and visual learners. But when we look at kinesthetic and virtual reality, they all are active learners. And if you see the retention, passive learning process, the highest retention is about 30%, whereas it straight away doubles to almost 50% when it's a discussion. When the students practice doing something, they retain 75% of the information. When students lead the sessions and they come and teach, they retain 90%. So I think you can understand how important it is to be into the active learning zone. We should all get out of this passive learning process, which is more of the teacher centered, and move into the learner centered process where the learners are actually involved in the teaching learning process. Next. Okay. It's not easy to be a teacher in today's world because earlier days, when I was in school, my teachers were they were excellent, but they did not need a lot of skills which a modern day teacher requires. They were very comfortable if they had good communication, if they were adaptable, if they had good collaborative abilities, if they could have an inclusivity and compassion. But today the teacher has to have a lot more skills. They need a lot of commitment, they need passion, they need to have a lot of preparation, they need to be organized, they need to have a lot of organization, they need to have tolerance, patience, they need to be good storytellers, they should always be open for questions, they must be innovative and creative, they must be able to adapt new technology and be familiar with all the changes that is coming in. They must have good social ability to interact and mingle, and they must be geek means keeping up with the new terms, new lingos, and new kind of gadgets and other things that is coming up. All this poses a lot of challenge for the modern day teacher. They have to stay a step ahead of the students, which is becoming increasingly difficult as students are getting more technological savvy, and teachers by aging are not able to actually keep up to that level of requirements. Next. How to improve your pedagogical skills. Review your evaluations. Discuss these skills with your colleagues. Attend professional conferences and such webinars or faculty development programs where you can gain some knowledge and you can share some information. Keep up with studies in pedagogy. I have shared you some good studies. You can always Google and search more. Ask for additional training. Ask in your institute or organization or university to provide you with training. There is a lot of knowledge available for taking a session one on one, or which is more of a practical session, or one on many, which is more of a theoretical session. So, what is the process? Why is it scientifically relevant? And what is the best way to teach? Keep updated with new technology and gadgets. Don't treat them as your enemy. Try to be friendly with gadgets. Next. How do you use your pedagogical skills? Don't wait for communication to come from somewhere else. Be proactive. Try out different teaching styles. Don't stick to lectures or demonstration or one. Try to be into that active learning zone. Bring in students to lead the sessions. Ask them to take over the class, become an observer, and highlight some additional inputs. Let the students design the assignments. Let them even if required, make the question paper. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you don't copy the same questions for the final paper. If each student makes a question paper and then you pick the best questions from there, that's a fair enough way of evaluation. Inclusive, make your classroom very inclusive. Give students space to express themselves. Let them be free to communicate. Let them not have fear. Be approachable, be friendly, but don't become a friend. Be friendly, be approachable. Learn to identify the learning traits. I have already given this, so you see what kind of students form the majority of your class. Are there audio learners? Are there visual learners? Are there kinesthetic learners? Try to mix a variety of learning styles so in your teaching methodology, so that don't be a teacher, be a learning facilitator. Help the students to learn. Don't impose learning. Make it interesting. Make the knowledge available for them. Point them in the right direction. Inspire them. Next. Some innovative teaching methods I have listed here. Project-based learning, flipped classrooms, where students come prepared at home and you ask questions in the class. You could create crosswords, quizzes, MCQs, experimentation learning. You could have activity based, simulation, virtual labs, blended learning, anything. Explain the difference between friend and friendly behavior. A friend is somebody whom you take for granted. You can ask a friend to come for a movie. You can use a little slang language to with a friend. But if your behavior is friendly, there is always a line of respect. The student knows what liberty he can take and where there is a line beyond which he should not tread. So there is, that is how you should be. You should be friendly. That means they should not have fear for you. But at no given time should they cross the line and, become so friendly that, they put a hand on your shoulder and say, "I come." That is not expected. They should know their place. I hope I'm able to make it clear to you. If a student has a doubt, he should not fear asking you, but at the same time, it should not be that in the street, "Hey, yes, thank you." Next. So the delivery process I have listed here. Please go through this, set the objectives, get the instruction and self-learning process, learning activities, interactions, exercises, practices, evaluate the whole thing against the objectives, get the feedback, reset the learning objectives, repeat it for each chapter, each credit or the course as the system demands. Next. We are coming almost to the close. So I am just highlighting what are the noteworthy points. Always start your session with an icebreaker to attract or to break the monotony of the class, make it more interesting. Introduction to the topic must always be there with a win. What, interest, and need. I had explained this in the beginning. I started with a what. I shared the interest, where we saw what is the interest in the teaching pedagogy, why we should use, and what is the need for it. So this is what you should try to cover. Your delivery should be structured and it should be planned. Practice it. Break down the entire process into different steps so that each step is easy to understand. After you complete a step, repeat it, reinforce the step, stimulate, engage the students, ask them to repeat the answers, evaluate, and summarize. So if you do all of this, you will find that knowledge transfer has become easier. Next. I am sharing some tips for keeping your classrooms active. If you are not feeling well, if you are not energetic, don't go to the class. Don't yawn and today I'm not feeling well, and with that kind of a look, you go to the class with a gloomy, oh my god, I have to take another class. No, that should never happen. You should be energetic. That energy will translate into the students. Don't be predictable, means it should not be a same pattern every day. Do things differently. Be innovative, be creative, try out new things, new learning styles, new involve the students, have them lead the sessions. Next, be yourself. Don't try to copy somebody. Be honest, be passionate. Accept there will be some limitations. So you accept that. Learn from students. There are students who will be able to teach you a lot of things. Be happy, encourage them. Acknowledge these achievements. If the student is giving you some information, be brave enough to accept and applaud that. Be updated. Do a lot of research. Keep updating your information. What you have taught today might not be relevant tomorrow, though the subject may be same. So a lot of changes would have happened. Prepare for each class like it is the first class you are going to take. Be ready to expect the unexpected, because students are with a lot of technology these days and they may be more updated than you in certain areas. They may come up with questions which you are not even aware of. So be ready to expect the unexpected. Next. Yeah. With this, I think I have come to the end of my session. Now I am available for questions. If anybody has got questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try to assist you the best I can.